What's going on, guys? Welcome back to We Want Picks. My name is Jacob, aka the Freckle Salamander. Thank you for joining me here today. If you guys are looking for the regular podcast with me and Angelo, unfortunately, Angelo has had some travel issues and we cannot go live tonight. So I want to make sure I gave you my thoughts and opinions for UFC Vegas 62. I'm going to try and make this short and sweet. I'm going to try and do this in one take as well. So if I start stumbling, if I start bumbling, if I start fumbling, let's just roll with it. If you guys want Angelo's picks, his full analysis, check out his quick pick video from Sunday. He breaks down the entire card. He does that every single Sunday. So before we get started, make sure you go to that video, check out his thoughts and opinions, like that video. Check out the live stream I did last night. I literally did a live stream last night. In the first hour and a half, I go through every single fight like I'm going to do now, but I talk about bets specifically. I mean, I dive into every single fight, looking at bets for every single fight. So check that out, like that stream. And if you like this video, maybe we can do a new format. Maybe I bring you guys a dedicated video every single week. Go ahead and like the video. Subscribe if you are new. Like I said, I'm going to try and do this in one take. So let's get right into it. No hesitation from here on out. Let's get right into the first fight for UFC Vegas 62. And then it's Mike Jackson and Pete Rodriguez. Listen, this thing should be pretty cut and dry. Mike Jackson is who he is, right? At this point in his career, it feels like he is coming to collect a check. Last fight, he was a huge underdog. He got that little eye poke victory against a guy that came in and looked like he didn't know what the hell. I mean, that looked like the biggest street fight I had ever seen in my life. The guy he was fighting, I can't remember his name, was just winging overhand rights. I mean, just cocking that thing back. And Mike Jackson, even though he's not like the best fighter in the world, saw him coming, right? I mean, he was like, what the is this guy doing? Like, it was just kind of shoulder rolling with everything. But you could tell in that fight that Mike Jackson really kind of, I don't want to say didn't want to be there, but let's be honest, he looked like he did not want to be there. Pete Rodriguez, I'm pretty high on this guy. Dead game. I actually picked him against Jack Della, and we saw how that fight went. But there was moments in that fight you could tell, okay, Pete at least knows what the hell he's doing in there, right? I mean, Jack was eating him up with that jab, and Mike Jackson's got a decent jab. It's not a Jack Della jab. It's not a Jack Della jab. It's not a Jack Della jab. But I mean, that rolls off the tongue, man. But Mike Jackson can throw a jab out there. If Pete Rodriguez comes in and thinks that he's just going to steamroll Mike, and he probably should, and he probably could, and he probably should. But if he comes in with that mentality and does the same thing that other dude did, I mean, he could find himself in a little bit of trouble because Mike is, I don't want to say he's super durable, but he's going to be around. So if you're Pete Rodriguez, you're the big favorite. Come in, good boxer, throw out that jab, work the body, work some combinations, and eventually you're going to find that big shot. I know the over-under is 1.5. The under 1.5 is like minus 270 or something. I'm a little bit wary of that. Check out my betting, the live stream last night. I go through the bets for this fight, but this should be a Pete Rodriguez clear victory all the way. I'm not going to spend a ton of time for it. Or leave a comment if you agree, if you disagree for any of these fights. I mean, I love chopping up with you guys in the comments. Let's get the comments going. Agree, disagree. Let's move on to CJ versus Tatsuro. And this is one. And you guys know me, lock of the week. You see it up top. This is one, and I'm telling you right now, when I break down fights, this is what I do. I break down the fights. I watch one fighter. I watch the other fighter. I don't look at the odds at all. I don't want to know what the odds are. And I was looking at this fight. And I'm breaking down CJ's fight. And immediately, before I'm looking at Tatsuro, I'm looking at CJ. I'm like, oh my, this guy could be lock of the week. I mean, the way that this dude's fights could be lock of the week. Because there's nothing I love more than an absolute dog. And I'm talking, when I see someone that's an absolute dog, I'm like, okay, this guy, red flag, could be lock of the week. And CJ is a dog. And I know there's going to be a lot of people high on CJ this week. And I'm not saying that he can't win this fight. I think this could be a nasty, drag-him-out fight. He's going to be the pressure fighter. He's going to be moving forward. He's against a young guy in Tatsuro. The biggest question mark for CJ and the biggest red flag for me and the way I'm leaning Tatsuro is the grappling and the wrestling. I think Tatsuro, if he gets in trouble with the pace, the pressure, the striking, I still think he can hand in the striking. I don't think it's going to be wrestling or nothing for Tatsuro. I think that he can hand in the striking with CJ, but the way that he has that wrestling in his back pocket and is very, very good at it, and we've seen CJ getting taken down before in fights, that is kind of the deciding factor for me. So yes, I do like CJ. And if you watch the live stream last night, I'm looking at the plus 3.5, winning around, doesn't have to win the fight, that type of play for CJ. I might have some action. But I think Tatsuro is going to be good enough on the feet to withstand whatever pressure has. He doesn't look like he has any cardio issues. He's a young guy, he's a pretty confident young guy, and he doesn't look like he gets overwhelmed at all. So I don't think the pressure is going to get Tatsuro. But the wrestling, man, he can go to that wrestling and stop and slow the pace down and control fights, and he's very, very good at it. And that's why I'm leading Tatsuro. I actually have Tatsuro in a parlay. Go to WeWantPicks.com, become a premium member. I have a 4-fight parlay. It's plus like 425. You can check it out there, or you can watch the live stream last night. I think at some point I mentioned it, so you can check that out. So my pick for this fight is Tatsuro. If I had to put it on a confidence scale, let's say Pete Rodriguez from 1 to 10 is going to be 10 being the most, 5 is being like a 50-50. I put Pete Rodriguez at like probably a 9, right? 8.5 and 9. I don't think anything's like a 10-10, but 8.5, 9. I put Tatsuro probably about a 6.5, maybe a 6. So it's not quite 50-50. CJ is a tough dude. I think he's going to be there for 3 rounds. He can definitely steal some rounds with pace and pressure in the judges' eyes. But I'm going Tatsuro just for that grappling advantage. We're moving on. Let's get this rolling. Piera Rodriguez versus Sam Hughes. I know there's a lot of people that are pretty high on Sam Hughes this week. I don't get it. I'll be honest, I don't get it. The girl is tough as hell. I don't want to seem like I'm disparaging Sam Hughes in any way when I talk about her fighting style, because she is tough as hell, and she completely changed her fighting style. She was losing fights and said, I can't win the way I was winning or trying to fight, so let me start wrestling. And she's going to beat most girls that she can wrestle, and you've seen that in her fights. If she can out-wrestle the girl, she's probably going to beat her. She's not going to be able to out-wrestle Piera Rodriguez. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, Kay Hansen took her down. Kay Hansen, that's all she does, right? I mean, she wants to take that fight to the ground. She was able to do that. And then you saw Piera Rodriguez kind of get more comfortable in the fight and be like, okay, you want to grapple? I mean, you want to okay, let's grapple then. And by Kay Hansen, if you want to grapple, let me know. I mean, I'm always down. I saw the OnlyFans, I'm not subscribed to the OnlyFans, but, I saw I think you're doing a good job. Piera was basically like, if you want to grapple, we can grapple. And then kind of broke Kay Hansen in that fight with her offensive wrestling. So Sam Hughes on the feet is a liability. She's going to beat girls that she can out-wrestle. I just don't see that she's going to be able to out-wrestle Piera Rodriguez. And if Piera Rodriguez doesn't engage in the wrestling, say she doesn't even want to try to like win scrambles and stuff, anything like that, and just is defending takedowns from Sam Hughes and keeps it on the feet, that's where she's really, really going to shine in this matchup. So I love Piera Rodriguez in this matchup versus Sam Hughes. Oh, one take, remember, no edits. On a confidence scale from 1 to 10, I'm thinking Piera's like a 7 to me. I know there's some people that are high on Sam Hughes. If she's able to slow this fight down, she could steal around maybe 2 rounds with her wrestling, something like that. And that's all you need to win a decision. I'm so high on Piera. I was looking at the minus 3.5. I think she should absolutely dominate this fight. I came out with the odds. I don't have them in front of me. I think she's like a minus 150 or something. When I was breaking down this fight, I thought she'd be a minus 200, minus 220, something like that. So I'm very high on Piera Rodriguez. Like I said, confidence skills, probably about a 7, 5 being 50-50, 10 being the most. Let's move on to the newly announced fight in Joanderson, Brito. And I'm going to lose my voice. But Joanderson, I've never done anything like this before. Like on live streams, it's different because I can talk to you guys, boom, boom. With this one, I'm just going. Joanderson, Brito versus Lucas Alexander. I'll be honest with you guys. This was a late announcement, and I know a lot of people are like, Joanderson, oh, he's going to dominate. Who's this new guy? I'll tell you right now who this new guy is. And he's not the lock of the week. He's not going to be the lock of the week. Tune in tomorrow for the lock of the week, by the way. But Lucas Alexander has a lot of visually what I like to see for lock of the week. I know he's untested, but at the same time, Joanderson Brito is pretty untested as well. He lost that fight versus Bill Algeo. Got kind of like that lucky knockout versus Andre Fili. Lucas Alexander, when I see this guy fight, he's cool. He's calm. He's collected. He's got good scrambles, which if Joanderson Brito thinks that he's just going to come in and take this dude down, maybe he's able to do it. I think it's going to be a little bit harder than Joanderson thinks. Joanderson is definitely the more dangerous guy of the two and the more wild guy. Lucas Alexander, the way he kind of fights is just, it's very calm. Everything's pretty technical. And I can literally see Joanderson Brito getting in some trouble coming in against a short notice guy, if he tries to get to a little bit too wild and Lucas is there with those nice technical, straight down the pipe shots, this could be bad news for Joanderson. So I'll be honest, I put today, I sprinkled a little bit on the Lucas money line. I think the odds are crazy. Joanderson's what, like a minus 325, minus 345. I got Lucas for plus 295. He's not going to be my pick, but I think the value is there as an underdog play, if that makes sense. Because again, when I'm breaking down fights, I don't look at the odds. I don't, I would put Brito at the favorite. He is my pick to win. He should win. He's probably the better fighter against a short notice guy, UFC debut. But I'm thinking Joanderson should be like a minus 175, a minus 200. And I'll be honest, if this is a full camp for Lucas, I'm picking Lucas. I like his abilities in the striking. I like his grappling. But most of all, I love his confidence and the way that he doesn't seem to get overwhelmed. He's not one of those wild regional guys that's just knocking everyone out and bob, and he thinks he's going to come into the UFC and knock people out. He's just very technical in those fights. Boom, boom. Picks his shots, takes his time. If somebody's up on his hips, he works through the positions. I saw one match with there was crazy scrambles with somebody going for heel hooks and stuff. Doesn't panic, just works through the positions. If this gets out of the first round, Brito could find himself into some trouble. So my pick is going to be Brito. Let's go confidence scale 1 to 10. 5 being kind of a 50-50. Maybe I'll lean like a 5.3 for Joanderson, right? Because it is short notice and stuff. But this is one of those fights, and this is one of those cards too. Especially when you listen to Angelo's picks, when you listen to my picks, it's not necessarily the pick, right? It's not black and white, like, oh, you're right or wrong. It's kind of listen to what we're saying here. And I don't know what Angelo is saying about Joanderson. I have no idea. But for me, I'm saying Joanderson better be careful in this fight, because Lucas looks like one of those dudes that could come in short notice, kind of find his range in that first round, and have success later in the fight. So my pick is Joanderson Brito. I'd probably put it as like a 5.3-ish, not quite 50-50, but, there's something about this that scares me a little bit for Joanderson. Next, we're moving on to Nick Maximov versus Jacob Malkoun. This one's pretty cut and dry for me. I mean, this is wrestler versus wrestler. One of these guys, to me, seems a lot more dangerous than the other guy. We have Nick as the favorite. I think he should be the favorite in this fight. And this basically comes down to Jacob is not dangerous, right? I am the only dangerous Jacob. I am the only. Bring your girl around me and find out how dangerous I am. But Jacob Malkoun is he's not a finisher. And against somebody like Nick Maximov, I think you need to kind of be a finisher. You saw that with the Andre fight, went in there, found the choke. Jacob's not going to be doing wild stuff like that. So if Nick is able to kind of and do his thing and win some scrambles and kind of grind this out, I think that he can win this fight. If I'm Nick as well in this fight, and I mentioned on my Twitter, if you follow my Twitter, I do a full fight breakdown on Sunday. I do a full Twitter breakdown, like every single fight, boom, 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 boom. It's basically what I'm saying now, but in short form, easy, quick, like cliff notes, basically. Anyway, if I'm Nick in this fight, I don't offensive wrestle. You know that Jacob will bring the wrestling to you. And if you try to offensive wrestle Jacob, I'm not going to say you're going to find yourself in some trouble, but you could find yourself losing some scrambles or wearing yourself out, and then all of a sudden you're on your back and you can't get up because Jacob is a good offensive wrestler. He's got good control. If I'm Nick in this fight, and I'm going to pick Nick in this fight, and I have like a weird, check out the stream. I keep talking about the stream, but literally like all my bets on the stream last night. I have a weird bet for Nick. If I'm Nick in this fight, I let Jacob wrestle. I let him bring the shots to me, and I focus on winning the scrambles from there. I let him come in for the shot and either defend it or work scrambles from there. That way, I'm not trying to offensive wrestle. It's tough. And now I'm tired, and now I can't defend takedowns. Take your time. Jacob will bring the shots, or wait for him to throw those big power shots, time them, and then go from there. But if you're trying to force the wrestling, like if Nick comes in and tries to force the wrestling on Jacob, I think he could find himself in some trouble. So this is the odds are close for a reason. Nick is my pick for this fight, but again, this is one of those fights I wouldn't, I think the value probably is in the Jacob side, even though I feel like Nick is a little bit more dangerous in his jiu-jitsu, in the wrestling with the scrambles and stuff like that. So, I'm picking Nick, scale 1 to 10, 5 being a 50-50. I think this is definitely like if I'm picking Nick, It's probably like a 4.5. It's not quite a 50-50 for me. I think it's a little bit less than that. I think Jacob is good enough wrestler to kind of control the fight. So my pick is Nick, but I don't feel great about it, if that makes sense. I'm definitely not going to put a money line bet on Nick, anything like that. So I don't feel like great about it, but he's against somebody that isn't super dangerous in Jacob, so he should be able to handle himself. And the value, was he minus 130 something? It's not awful value. So I know I'm kind of talking out both sides of my neck right now. My pick is Nick, but with two wrestlers, it's tough, right? But I think the value could be there. Nick at the minus 130. Let's move on to Raphael Assuncao and Victor Henry. This one is pretty straightforward, right? Raphael Assuncao, was he 40-something years old? Looking all of 40-something years old. The guy's been struggling. His footwork looks slow. His hands look slower. His head movement looks slower. This should be a Victor Henry fight all the way, using the striking. Just take your time throughout those combos. He should be much, much faster in the striking versus Raphael. He can go to wrestling, I guess, if he really needs to. But Victor looked great against, was it Hani Barcelos? Okay, he looked great against Hani, and Hani didn't look awful in that fight. And he won that fight. He was a huge underdog in that fight, and this is pretty cut and dry. I mean, you guys can leave it in the comments, whatever you think about this fight. But he's a big favorite for a reason. He's going to be in some parlays. If he loses, this is going to be a parlay buster for a lot of people. But Victor should have no issues with Raphael in this fight on the feet. If it goes to the ground, maybe there's some weird scrambles, but I see this. I don't know if I want to chase a finish here. I know a lot of people are inside the distance, knockout, Victor Henry, this and that, but he should have more than enough ability to handle Raphael in this fight. I mean, Raphael just looks like he's at that point now where it's like, all right, let's move on to different things, different career paths. He fought the best of the best people, but you're slowing down. It's starting to show, and Victor should be able to handle it. Let's move on to Mana Martinez versus Brandon Davis, and this kind of is the same situation. I mean, I see this as the same situation as the Victor Henry and Raphael Assuncao fight, except for Mana Martinez thinks he's probably a lot better than he is. But this should probably be a good matchup for him and Brandon Davis. Brandon Davis, again, isn't like the most fast guy with his hands, doesn't have the fastest footwork, and Mana Martinez, to his credit, does move around, right? So I'm not chasing inside the distance for him. By the way, Victor Henry, 1-10. I'll put it as an 8 against Raphael Assuncao. Brandon Davis, Mana Martinez. I'm going to pick Mana Martinez in this matchup. I just spit, by the way, and almost hit right in the middle of the camera. I don't know if you saw. Slow motion replay that. Mana Martinez, I'm going to pick him to win the striking. Listen, he probably thinks he's better than he is, but he should have the striking to win this matchup. I just think he's going to be quicker. He's going to be the one pressing forward. Credit to Mana. I know he does make mistakes. He does some stupid shit at times, but he usually is the guy pressing forward. Brandon Davis back against the fence. It's probably going to be a bad idea. I don't know if there's going to be a finish in this fight, but I think Mana should definitely be able to win this fight. I actually like kind of the value on this. I think I have him in a parlay as well. Again, check out all the betting stuff. Go to We Want Picks, do the premium, all that stuff. Mana Martinez for this, I put him at a 7. 1-10, confidence scale 7. Should have no problems with the striking. Let's move on to the main card to where, I mean, these fights are going to be a lot of fun, and there's some money to be made. Starting off with Misha Cirkunov. Misha Cirkunov versus Alonzo Menifield. And I'll be honest with you guys, I am biased for whatever reason there is against Alonzo Menifield. The guy looks the part, but if you look at his wins, he is beating people for the most part. I don't want to say every single fight, but for the most part, he is beating people that he can wrestle, right? Fabio, he took down. Ed Herman, I can't remember if he took down the last guy who shouldn't have even been in the UFC. He took down, dominated him. I'll get one straight, and I will eat my shoes on this if I am wrong. But there is no way in hell that Alonzo Menifield is going to take Misha down. There is no way in hell Alonzo Menifield is going to take Misha down. So that means, can Alonzo Menifield win a striking battle with Misha? I think he probably should be able to, especially being a 200 favorite. But if you watch Alonzo Menifield, you watch that OSP fight, whenever it was, he's got some chin issues. And maybe those have been shored up because sometimes you can get your chin back, whatever. But that shot that OSP dropped him and finished him with was just like that was just like a boop, and Alonzo Menifield just folded. And Misha isn't the fastest dude. doesn't have the best footwork, doesn't have the most technical striking. He's probably going to get hit and he could get knocked out. But I'm telling you right now, if Misha lands a shot on Alonzo, it's not going to be great. And if Misha gets a takedown versus Alonzo Menifield, he is in big, and I'm talking big trouble. With that said, for this fight, and it's not a super confident pick, I'm going with Misha. And again, this is one of those. If Misha loses fight, it's going to go down as a loss for me, which is understandable. This is probably my least confident pick on the card. I'm talking 1 to 10, 10 being like, hey, flip a coin, Misha could win. I'm putting this at like a 2 or a 3. Because I understand Misha on the feet can be a little bit of a liability with his footwork, with his head movement. He does get hit. He's fought he's fought, like, if you look at the people he's fought everyone. Lost a majority of those fights, right? He's lost a majority of those fights. But Alonzo Menifield is not a guy that's going to come in and out-wrestle Misha. Misha is an incredible, not only a good wrestler, but grappler as well. And if Misha gets on, I'm telling you, if he takes Alonzo Menifield down, and I got to assume that's the game plan, and I got to assume that he's going to be able to do that, he's going to absolutely dominate this fight versus Alonzo Menifield. Now, if it stays on the feet, and maybe Alonzo's able to get the takedown, again, I'll eat my shoes. If Alonzo gets this fight to the ground and finishes on the ground, I'll be very, very surprised that happens. But if Alonzo's able to do what he wants on the feet, obviously he can have success there. So this basically is like, I assume that Misha is going to be able to get the takedown he needs. That's why he's my pick. But again, not super confident. The way I played this, I think, was inside the distance decisional action, which was still like plus 200. Don't love this pick. Confident level 2 or 3, but I'm telling you right now that if Misha gets a takedown, Alonzo Menifield is going to be in big trouble, and that's kind of how I see the fight going. So that is why Misha is going to be my pick for this fight. Next is Dusko versus Jordan Wright, and I mentioned this last night, guys. This is one of those fights, and I'll tell you right now what the bet I placed for this fight, because I think there's some decent value on this fight. I wouldn't bet on this fight. I just said I put a bet on this fight, but you'll hear what it is in a second. I wouldn't bet on this fight, guys. I wouldn't try to assume what this fight is going to happen. I would keep your money in your pocket, sit back, relax, because who the hell knows what is going to happen. I mean, Jordan Wright fights are always wild. He comes across, he always gets in that Muay Thai clinch, and then he either gets knocked out or he knocks people out. Dusko, is he going to try and wrestle? Is he going to try and strike? This is one of the, I'm telling you right now, guys, I would not try to chase especially if you've lost leading up to this and you're looking at this, you're like, oh, Jordan Wright's a legit dude. And I know that he's got no chin, but he's an underrated wrestler, a very underrated grappler. And for that reason, listen, my pick's going to be Dusko. He's probably the safer pick because he's shown he's got, I guess, a little bit better chin and he can wrestle probably a little bit better than Jordan Wright. But my pick for this fight is Dusko, but my money for this, and I took a little bit of a flyer, and I'm talking a teeny tiny flyer, and I wouldn't tail it at all. But Jordan Wright, I'm telling you right now, is an underrated wrestler and definitely an underrated grappler, especially for what these odds are that I saw last night during the live stream. So I assume that if this stays standing, I think it's a coin toss. I think that Jordan Wright can definitely knock out Dusko, and Dusko can definitely knock out Jordan. If this goes to wrestling, I think that Dusko can definitely control positions enough to win, so that my pick is Dusko. But if this starts getting weird in wrestling, in scrambles, if Dusko gets hurt, because Jordan definitely has power and all sorts of weird stuff he throws, if Dusko takes a bad shot, we just saw Jordan Wright get submitted, try to wrestle. I think he's going to try and, I think Jordan Wright is trying to lean more towards, let me try to be a little bit more safe in my fights to kind of extend my longevity with the UFC. You saw that in his last fight, he was my lock of the week, but you saw the game plan, right? He wanted to wrestle. And he was wrestling. He just got caught in that guillotine. So if Jordan Wright comes in, let's say he tries to offensive wrestle, and he starts finding these weird scrambles, because I'm telling you right now that Jordan Wright is an underrated grappler. I'm telling you right now he's an underrated grappler. I put a sprinkle, and I'm telling you right now, don't tail it, but I need to put it on film. I put a sprinkle on Jordan Wright, round 1 submission and round 2 submission. I'd be very surprised if this gets out of the first round, but if they start wrestling, it definitely could. I would be very surprised if this sees the third round. I don't know if Jordan Wright's ever seen the third round. I put a sprinkle of Jordan Wright by submission round 1 and round 2. Round 1 is plus 2,500 odds, and round 2 submission is plus 3,000 odds. This is a guy, Jordan Wright, I think he's got 5 submission wins on his career. I know nothing of substantial of late, but he's an underrated grappler. You saw in his last fight, he tried to use the wrestling. If he comes in and starts wrestling, you guys, I'm just telling you, I put a little bit sprinkle. We'll see what happens. My pick for this fight is Dusko, and like I said, I mean, I'm picking Dusko and putting him at a 5. It's 50-50. I have no idea. Keep your money on this fight. If you want to sprinkle here, I get it. But this fight is too tough to call. My official pick for this fight is going to be Dusko. I don't love it. Let's move on to my favorite fight of the night. Actually, my second favorite. Actually, probably my third favorite. I love the top 3 of this fight. Like the video right now if you love the top 3 fights for this card. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, the main event. Vivi's my girl. You talk shit about Vivi, you gone. I'm deleting you from the channel. Askarov versus Raw Dog Brandon Royval. And I cannot get out of my head that Brandon Royval is going to win this fight. I know that Askar is who he is, right? He's a dominant wrestler, good enough hands to do what he wants to get to the wrestling, a very, very controlling wrestler. But in my mind, now I was talking about the Discord. If you guys want to talk to me every single day, join the Discord below. In my mind, Brandon Royval, this is like the most tailor-made fight for him I have ever seen, because Askar is not a super dangerous guy. Even in the wrestling, he's not like a ground and pound, a submit you type guy. He just wants to hold, control positions, and he is very good at that. And Brandon Royval, man, he's good enough on the feet, right? I think he's going to be slightly the better, not the more technical striker, but maybe the more dangerous striker, I would say, in this matchup. But in the wrestling and in the scrambles, this is like the perfect guy to go up against, because Brandon Royval loves those weird scrambles, man. He loves those weird scrambles, and Askar's probably going to be able to take him down. And there's probably going to be moments in this fight where Brandon Royval is on his back, and Askar's got him against the cage, and he's doing what he wants to him. But Brandon Royval, to his credit, is not one of those guys that just stays in guard. He doesn't accept guard, and he's just going to sit there and try to throw up triangle. He's working, scrambling, boom, boom. He's diving under. He's looking for heel hooks. He's getting for legs. Then he's throwing up triangles. Then he's trying to get your back. Then all of a sudden he's on a front choke. This guy is non-stop. And against a guy that's going to engage in the wrestling but isn't super dangerous in that regard, I'll be honest, guys. I just cannot get out of my head that Brandon Royval is eventually going to find a submission. I've said it time and time. If you guys know me, I've said it time and time again. Jiu-jitsu is a joke. Jiu-jitsu does not work. Jiu-jitsu, you can't just lay on your back anymore and just expect to throw up triangles. And if Brandon Royval was one of those guys, like a Paul Craig, where he's just going to stay in guard and try to get an armbar triangle, armbar triangle, armbar triangle, I wouldn't like Brandon Royval. But he's not one of those guys. He's a guy that works through scrambles. You take a shot, he's rolling, he's trying to get your back, he's trying to advance positions, he's trying to get to advantageous positions and then try to submit you. He's not doing it off his back in guard with jiu-jitsu. So that is why I'm picking Brandon Royval in this matchup. Listen, I fully expect, or I fully, respect, not expect, but respect how good Askar is. But, even if Brandon Royval doesn't engage in the scrambles and just defend some takedowns, you saw what Kai Kara-France did. When Kai Kara-France, the second he started defending those takedowns, Askar was like, oh shit. Uh-oh. And Kai Kara-France was able to get in his face. If Brandon Royval wants to play that route, defend some takedowns, let's work the striking, I respect it, but in the scrambling, I think he's much, much more dangerous. And I got a bet that I absolutely love for Brandon Royval in this matchup. Check it out. Become a premium member. It'll be in the Discord. It'll be on the website. I mean, I got plus money for Brandon Royval. And if he loses a decision, if Askarov wins a decision, just wrestles him, I get my money back. But if Brandon Royval finds that finish, I still get plus. I can't believe it's plus money. The odds are moving. It might not be plus money anymore. It was plus 130 when I played it. It was plus 120 last night. It's probably going to be minus money by the time the fight starts. But my pick for Brandon Royval for this fight, confidence 1 to 10, probably a 3 or 4, right? I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Askar is very, very talented, and Brandon Royval kind of needs a little bit of a Hail Mary. So I'll put about a 3 or 4, but I'm taking the underdog here in Raw Dog Royval. Let's move on. Jonathan Martinez, Cub Swanson. Let me be completely honest with you here. First of all, if you guys heard my breakdowns on Jonathan Martinez in the past, big fan. Love Jonathan Martinez. Love what he does. On the flip side, Cub Swanson number one. I mean, I got my Ryan Hall hat, but Cub Swanson is my number one all-time favorite fighter. He's the guy that when I first started watching UFC, I'm like, who is that guy? Because he is a lot of fun to watch. And if this was I'm telling you right now, this fight was at 145. I know Jonathan Martinez isn't a 145er. If this fight was at 145, Cub Swanson, I would put any amount of money in the world that Cub Swanson was going to win this fight. I think the only question mark, and the biggest question mark, but the only question mark for this fight for Cub Swanson is how is he going to be at 135? And I think he's going about it the right way. You look at the Instagram, you look at what he's doing, he's changing his body, he's doing this and that. I think he's going to be fine, but there's still those question marks. Up in age, down in weight cut. He's never had chin issues, but sometimes with that weight cut, the chin issues are there. So, Cub Swanson in this fight, Jonathan Martinez, I'll tell you right now how you determine this fight. I'll tell you right now, I think this is Cub Swanson's fight to lose, but this is how you're going to determine this fight. If Jonathan Martinez is in the middle of the octagon and Cub Swanson is just kind of dancing around trying to find his spots, Cub Swanson's going to lose that fight. He's going to lose that fight 9 out of 10 times because Jonathan Martinez, when he's able to dictate range and throw those kicks out, the leg kicks, then the body kicks, then the head kicks start coming at his natural weight class, I don't want to say he's going to dominate this fight, but he should dominate this fight if he's in the middle of the octagon. Now, if Cub comes in and he fights like Cub, he's not worried about the weight cut, he's not worried about cardio, he's not worried about this and that, and he fights like Cub Swanson, and he is in the middle of the octagon, and you see Jonathan Martinez, that black line that goes around the octagon. You see Jonathan Martinez on that black line. Maybe Jonathan Martinez a couple times up against the cage. Jonathan Martinez is in big trouble, man. I'm telling you right now, Jonathan Martinez is in big trouble. If his back is against the cage, against the boxing of Cub Swanson, you guys, I don't think, respect or understand the level of boxing that Cub Swanson brings. And maybe the speed at 135 is a little bit different than the featherweights he's used to fighting. But Jonathan Martinez is not a lightning fast dude. He's not a hands dude. I think there was one fight I was watching where his corner was literally saying, hey, you got to throw your hands. You got to throw your hands. He just wants to throw kicks. And if Cub gets inside those kicks and he fights like Cub Swanson and lets those hands go, we've seen Jonathan be chinny at times. I mean, the guy's been knocked out. I'm telling you right now, guys. I'm telling you right now, guys, that Cub Swanson, this is his fight to lose. I think he should absolutely dominate this fight. And we'll see how he looks on the scale Friday. That's the biggest question mark. We'll see how he looks on the scale Friday. Maybe it's not a great weight cut. Maybe we have to change our minds here. But my pick is Cub Swanson because I honestly think this is his fight to lose. I think he is the better overall striker in this matchup against a guy that's not going to pressure him, that wants to kind of keep that range and that pace. And there's nobody better at disrupting somebody's game plan than Cub Swanson because he doesn't give a. I mean, he will run in there and just throw cartwheel kicks and he looks motivated. His hands have looked great in his last few fights. Obviously, there was that weird Giga situation. I know a lot of people will be like, oh, Jonathan Martinez, he's just going to liver kick him. I don't think that's going to happen. Cub Swanson is going to be motivated. He's going to come in. He's the better striker in this matchup. Maybe Jonathan Martinez tries to wrestle, but Cub's got the jiu-jitsu and stuff as well that withstand that. Guys, I love Cub Swanson in this matchup. Again, I'm biased. I have moneyline bets on him already. 1 to 10 confidence scale. 10 being the most. 5 being a 50-50. I'm taking Cub Swanson, and I'm willing to look stupid by saying I think it's a 6. I think it's a 6, maybe even a 7. If Cub Swanson wants to win this fight, he can absolutely win this fight. If he's worried about the weight cut and he's worried about his chin and he starts dancing around, he's going to lose his fight. But I think that's really the only way he loses his fight. If he gets in there and actually fights and brings the fight to Jonathan, I think he can dominate this fight. And I'm saying that as a Jonathan Martinez fan. You can watch all our stuff. Love Jonathan Martinez, but Cub Swanson in my no. And I think he absolutely can dominate this fight with his hands, with his striking, and even with some weird scrambles and stuff like that as well. So Cub Swanson is my pick for this fight. Confidence level, a 6. And we'll see how it plays out. Let's get to the main event and wrap this video up. I want to thank you guys, first of all, if you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have been skipping around, you're looking for the main event, you just listened to that, like the video if you don't mind. I'm serious. I mean, the likes is so easy to do, and it really, really helps out Subscribe if you are new. Let's get into the main event. Alexa Grasso versus my girl, Vivi. Vivi Araujo, I am 100. And listen to me closely, because you're going to like what I'm saying here, and you're probably going to like what I'm saying after this. I am 100% biased with Vivi. Vivi's my girl. If you guys watched all our stuff, I love Vivi as a fighter. She won that fight versus Caitlyn. I mean, it's ridiculous. She had complete control for 4 minutes of the second round versus Caitlyn, and 2 judges gave Caitlyn the second round. The reason they gave Caitlyn the second round of that fight is because, and if this was 3 rounds, I would have no question in my mind Vivi would dominate this fight. Vivi, 100%, I think, is the better fighter in this matchup. I think she's the better wrestler. I think she's the more dynamic and more powerful striker. Even in the jiu-jitsu, I think she's better. I think she's the better fighter in this matchup. If this was 3 rounds, I think she would absolutely dominate this matchup. She's the better fighter in this matchup. This is a 5-round fight. And unfortunately, the biggest question mark in what we've seen from Vivi time and time again, she wins fights, 3-round fights, because she can survive. But we see her get tired, and we see her have gas tank and cardio issues time and time again. And leading up to this camp, she says she's fixed issues, right? I've done more recovery. I've done this. I've done that. But 5 rounds is 5 rounds. And Vivi's one of those girls that once you get tired, there's some people that can kind of get tired and then they'll have a second win, right? So you'll see at the end of the round, it's like, oh, but they get on their stool, they recover, and then they're fine, right? Maybe at the end of the second round, you can see, oh, they're a little fading, but then they come to the third round, they're bouncing around, and they're back in it. From what I've seen so far from Vivi, and I like Vivi, and I think she's the better fighter in this matchup, when Vivi gets tired, she does not recover. She does not recover. You saw that in the Caitlyn fight. Dominated the first 4 minutes, was tired at the end, and that's why the judges gave Caitlyn the end of that second round. She was, dead tired, was just like running away. And the third round, she didn't recover, and Caitlyn won the third round of that fight. So she's not one of those girls or one of those people in general that can recover. Does she quit? Absolutely not. Right? There's no quit in Vivi. So when I say that she's tired and she can't recover, she's not going to quit. She's not going to just ball up. She's going to keep trying to move forward. She's going to keep trying to throw strikes out of those positions. But as far as getting her win back and being able to do what she needs to do to win rounds, she's not going to be able to do that. She's not going to be able to do that. She can survive. She can do enough to survive, but once Vivi is getting tired in this matchup, she will not win a round after that fact. So even if she wins the first 2 rounds, let's say she comes out, ball of fury, gets takedowns, boom, maybe in the striking, gets a knockdown, boom, 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 wins the first 2 rounds, dominates the first 2 rounds, all of a sudden, we're 2 minutes into the third round, and it's like, oh, now Alexa's picking up the pace. Vivi's on her back foot. She's taking desperate shots. Vivi, in my mind, will not win another round after that matchup, or after that fact. So once you see Vivi getting tired, and this could be in the first round. Vivi's one of those girls, big, physical, strong, explosive. We could be 3 minutes into the first round. And you're like, oh, Vivi's looking tired. She's probably going to be tired for the rest of the fight. Even if she's winning the round, she's probably going to be tired. From what I've seen, it could change. But from what I've seen, she could be tired the rest of the fight. So what I'm saying for you right now is I'm going to stick with my girl. I'm going to stick with my girl. And this is another one of those situations where my pick might be wrong, but listen to what I'm saying right now. My pick is Vivi. But if I were you, I would probably play the Alexa side because Vivi could easily win the first 2 rounds, get tired, and lose the next 3. I don't think either girl is going to finish either side. And this is so unfortunate because I absolutely believe that Vivi is the better fighter in this matchup, the better wrestler, the more dynamic, powerful striker. But I think that her cardio is probably going to fail her again. I hope not. She is going to be my pick for this fight because I hope that she can kind of sneak out, kind of the Aljo versus Piera, sneak out those first 3 rounds, stack them up, and then just kind of coast and win a decision. But if you're looking for who will probably win a 5-round fight with 2 girls going to a decision, I got to go with the better cardio and Alexa Grasso. So unfortunately, my pick is going to be Vivi. I'm going to stick with her. That is my official pick. Confidence level, probably a 3. Probably from a 1 to 10, probably a 3. So that's what, at the end of the day, if Vivi loses, remember, yes, that is my pick, but I didn't love it. You should probably play the Alexa side in my mind. But thank you guys so much. This was a new video. We're 40 minutes in. I did this literally all in one take. I can't believe I did that. So if you guys like this video, I mean, I said I like it already, so I guess don't like it anymore. But if you want to like it, you like it. Subscribe if you're new. Like I said, become a premium member. WeWantPicks.com. Look out for our betting videos Friday. Check out my last night live stream. I mean, I know it's a live stream, but I tried to keep it kind of like this, to where like literally the first hour and a half, I'm talking, it's like all bets for every single fight. Check out Angelo's video, his quick pick video Sunday for his breakdowns of the fights. Tune in Friday for all of our videos, the betting videos, and Saturday, I will be live. I go live and try to do fight companions for pretty much every single fight. I'll talk about the fights for an hour before they start, and then we have a lot of fun. I mean, let me know in the comments below if we have a ton of fun in those Saturday live streams. Tune in for those fight companions. We have a few hundred people that show up every single Saturday, and we make live bets, and we make a lot of money live betting UFC on Saturdays. So I want to thank you guys for joining me here today. My name is Jacob. Follow my socials below if you would like. Look out for my Lock of the Week video tomorrow, and I am out of here. Peace.